A massive search and rescue mission happening now in Texas, where thousands are stranded by rising floodwaters. How San Diego is helping out. And bracing for a heat wave in San Diego. How fire crews are preparing to fight fires fueled by hot weather and dry conditions.
Yeah, first year was hard because when I came, I had zero English. Zero, none.
Building a new life, the challenge of educating refugees in San Diego schools. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. More rescues today in Houston as rain continues to fall and floodwaters continue to rise. The city is still largely paralyzed by Harvey, which slammed into the coast as a Category 4 hurricane. Authorities say 8 people are believed to be dead as a result of the storm. 30,000 people are expected to be displaced. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says so far he's happy with the response from the federal government.
I would have to grade the federal government's response as an A+. This is, if not the largest, has to be categorized as one of the largest disasters America has ever faced. And to see the swift response from the federal government is pretty much unparalleled.
Heavy rains from Harvey lashed southwest Louisiana today, but the threat to the state doesn't appear to be as serious as the devastation experienced in Texas. Efforts to send help are ramping up here in San Diego. The Coast Guard has dispatched a helicopter and 2 air crews, while the American Red Cross is sending resources to Texas and Louisiana. KPBS's Matt Hoffman has more.
We have people on the ground, people helping virtually, and just doing what we can to help those people in Texas.
The American Red Cross says they've opened about 3 dozen shelters in Texas. From San Diego, 7 volunteers have been sent to help on the ground, but here locally, people are manning phone lines.
When folks are calling into 1-800-RED Cross, we have folks here in San Diego answering those calls, and we've gotten some really heartbreaking calls from people. I mean, there's people who are stranded, people who are looking for shelters, but then also people who are looking to help.
Volunteers in San Diego have been helping connect victims to local emergency services. They're also helping coordinate local rescue operations, connecting people to the local Coast Guard.
We sent one crew via the helicopter and another crew commercially.
That's Lieutenant Ben Berman, standing in front of a Jayhawk helicopter, the same kind that Coast Guard Sector San Diego sent to Texas. Berman flew rescue missions for the Coast Guard during Hurricane Katrina and knows firsthand the devastation mass flooding can cause.
You would see a lot of destruction. You would see some dead bodies, and you just can't do anything about that. You're there to pull out the people that are needing to get to a higher level of care.
Berman says a 4-person Jayhawk crew can do over 100 water rescues in a single day.
Usually drop the rescue swimmer and then either drop the basket, or the rescue swimmer would grab them directly and put them in the strop and then bring them up as well.
Berman says every rescue is different, but once a person gets inside the helicopter, medical treatment can start right away. It's unclear how long the San Diego-based rescue crews will be in Texas, but Berman says it's until the storm is over. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
More than 100 cats and dogs were flown to San Diego today from a Louisiana animal shelter. Operators there cleared their shelter in anticipation of an influx of lost and stranded pets from Hurricane Harvey. KPBS video journalist Matt Bowler shows us the animal rescue flight at Gillespie Field.
The animals that were at Acadiana Animal Art in Lafayette are the ones that are coming in here. These are animals that were already available for adoption. I think it's important for San Diegans to know that they're not adopting one of these pets that means it won't go back to its family. These are pets that were already available for adoption. And when you adopt one, you're actually saving a couple of lives. You're saving that one, and you're making space for the next one that goes into Acadiana Animal Aid.
Everyone meet Ellie Mae.
We have 80 dogs and puppies, 27 cats and kittens. And so those are all animals that within the next week or two should be available for adoption. takes them about 10 minutes to get them unloaded because you don't have to worry about the stacking. You just get them off, you pass them on, and it's a warm day in El Cajon, so we're going to get them off of the plane as soon as possible. We're going to get them over into some shade. They get their first restroom break on California soil within a few seconds. They get a drink of water, and then after that they go to the shelters and the foster homes where they'll be staying until they find their new homes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right, I'll go back and get one more.
If it wasn't for the fact that San Diego is stepping forward on their behalf with GreaterGood.org and Wings of Rescue, they had no future. So when you adopt one of these, you're saving 2 lives, and no animal should die just because it was born in the wrong state.
We'll continue to follow the latest developments on the storm and rescue effort on air on KPBS Radio, online on kpbs.org, and tonight on PBS NewsHour. That starts at 7 right here on KPBS. There's a new development tonight in the legal fight over San Onofre. Parties who challenged the plan to store nearly 4 million pounds of nuclear waste at the shuttered plant have announced a settlement. The agreement calls on Southern California Edison to come up with a plan to move it off-site. KPBS reporter Andrew Bowen joins us live in front of San Diego Superior Court with what's next. Andrew?
Well, Ebony, what's next is that Southern California Edison has to implement the terms of this settlement. As you said, that includes coming up with a plan to relocate this nuclear waste that's currently stored on site about 100 feet from the ocean, also coming up with a location to store that waste and a plan to transport it to that location safely, which of course is no easy task. I'm joined here by Ray Lutz. He is the founder of Citizens Oversight, the plaintiff in this lawsuit. Mr. Lutz, what does this settlement mean for the people of San Diego and Orange counties?
Well, finally, we're going to get these nuclear industry to start talking about the problems that they've been kicking the can down the road for many decades. It's been 20 years since they're supposed to have a place for the nuclear waste to go. And now that we're finally getting them to start talking about it. Without this lawsuit, they wouldn't have started even talking about this in any kind of demonstrable way.
Now, the terms of this settlement require Edison to do whatever is commercially reasonable to relocate this nuclear waste. Tell me what that means and who decides.
Well, I understand that's a fairly strong term in legalese that the court, that we're going to be able to hold them responsible. They can't just slough this off. They have to actually use commercially reasonable effort to continue to implement this agreement. So, yes, if it becomes totally illegal and they can't do it or there's some real roadblock, then they'll be able to get out of it. But they can't just do nothing as they've done in the past. They have to continue to work this agreement in a commercially reasonable fashion.
All right, Ray Lutz, founder of Citizens Oversight, the plaintiff in the lawsuit against Southern California Edison, reporting live in front of the Hall of Justice in downtown San Diego, Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Thanks, Andrew. The bodies of all 10 sailors missing after the collision of the USS John McCain have been found. The Navy says divers located 8 of them on Sunday. The other 2 bodies were discovered early last week. Camp Pendleton-based Marine divers were among those searching the McCain for the bodies of the missing sailors. The collision was the second recent fatal collision in the Navy Pacific's-based 7th Fleet. A crash in June killed 7 sailors, including 2 men from San Diego County. U.S. border agents have found a human smuggling tunnel near Otay Mesa. It's a huge hole in the ground with a ladder. Law enforcement leaders discovered it when a group of people ran from them. They arrested 30 people. 23 were Chinese nationals. The rest were Mexican citizens. Authorities say the tunnel may be an extension of an incomplete tunnel previously discovered by Mexican officials. A San Diego company has been using a smallpox vaccine in stem cell treatments that are unapproved and potentially dangerous, according to the FDA. KPBS science reporter David Wagner has more.
The FDA seized vials of the vaccine from San Diego-based STEM Immune Inc. The vaccine was used in stem cell treatments given to cancer patients in Rancho Mirage and Beverly Hills. The FDA says the vaccine could have posed serious health risks, and in a press release, Commissioner Scott Gottlieb said the agency is stepping up enforcement against unscrupulous actors in the growing stem cell treatment industry. The statement was applauded by Jean Loring, a stem cell scientist at the Scripps Research Institute in La Jolla.
What I liked was the fact that he used this as an opportunity to make a statement about the FDA cracking down on these therapies.
In an email to KPBS, a STEM Immune representative said the company is fully cooperating with the FDA. David Wagner, KPBS News.
High temperatures have San Diego fire crews on alert this week. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh says extra staff will be on hand to battle potential brush fires before they get out of control.
Beginning Sunday, San Diego Fire Rescue increased the number of firefighters on duty as a heat wave descends on the region. Deputy Fire Chief Steve Ritchie says normally even stations with brush trucks would have only one crew on hand.
And that structure engine is not staffed, and then they're gone on the fire. What we do at this time is we staff 5 stations that has a brush engine and a structure engine, and both rigs are simultaneously staffed, ready to go.
The idea is to speed response time and catch brush fires early. Fire Rescue is working with meteorologists at San Diego Gas and Electric to determine when to add extra crews. So far, they predict high heat will increase the possibility of brush fires through Thursday or maybe even Friday. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Kids returning to school today were greeted with heat, and it's only set to get hotter. It was so hot today that San Diego Unified officials have decided many students will attend a half day tomorrow. The impacted schools were selected based on the percentage of classrooms without air conditioning. We're also seeing rain hitting San Diego County tonight.
Well, the big story across the West Coast certainly is not precipitation, although we are seeing very spotty activity, mainly in the very far southeast corner here of San Diego County. The big story really is the heat. So here we are, just very spotty activity as far as showers and pop-up thunderstorms in the deserts because of monsoon. But we are under a heat advisory in parts of San Diego County, and that won't expire until Wednesday night. So for tonight, our low is 73 degrees. That is closer to our regular high of 77 degrees for this time of year. Fog later on, of course, burning up for some sunshine. Tonight, Oceanside 72, Poway 71, Ramona 69 degrees, and Borrego Springs 84 degrees. Here we are with the big picture. We have a high pressure system in place here in the southwest. That is keeping us dry and also hot. We're going to see record challenging temperatures all across the west coast here. So, for example, San Diego 90 degrees for our high temperature. We should be at 77 for this time of year again, so that is very hot. Ramona 108. Our highs are typically in the upper 90s, so very warm conditions. Could see a pop-up shower or even thunderstorm here in the Ramona area. Oceanside 94, Borrego Springs 113, and Mount Laguna 89 degrees, Alpine 102. So make sure you're staying hydrated. Check on your elderly neighbors. Make sure the kiddos and also the pets are also staying hydrated. Here is our heat advisory. So right here along the coast in San Diego, and then also throughout places like Borrego Springs, we are certainly going to have some heat issues. Everyone else here is in an excessive heat warning, so very hot temperatures. Certainly try to stay in the air conditioning. Taking a look at the 5-day, 94 Tuesday, and then we drop it down to the 80s. Still very warm for this time of year. Plenty of sunshine to go to the beaches. And inland, it's going to be very hot. Triple digits Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, Friday at 99 degrees. Finally, Saturday, a bit of a break, 98 degrees for the high temperature. In the mountains, look at that. We're in the 80s, even in the 90s, so very warm. And then in the deserts, we're still in the triple digits pretty much every day. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
Several hundred people gathered in Balboa Park Sunday for what was called an anti-hate rally. It was a peaceful rally. Organizers say it was in solidarity with anti-racist activists in Charlottesville, San Francisco, and Berkeley. In Berkeley, things got heated. This video shows public radio host Al Letson throwing himself onto a man on the ground who was being attacked by a group of protesters. The rally in Berkeley coincided with an alt-right rally that was planned but canceled at the last minute.
You should stay out of our cities. You should stay out of our campuses. This is not a fascist America that we're going to tolerate, and we're not going to tolerate these white supremacists either. And we call on people of conscience all over this country to stand up from whatever your political background and whatever your perspective against white supremacy and fascism wherever it rears its ugly head.
Police say they made 13 arrests during Sunday's rally. 6 people were hurt. 2 went to the hospital. Congress may be on recess, but there's plenty of developments from Washington, D.C. with ripple effects here in San Diego. Today, I spoke with Congresswoman Susan Davis about some of the issues hitting close to home. Lately, from immigration to the status of DACA to the proposed border wall to racism, so many of these topics are at the forefront of national discourse. What are you hearing from your constituents about what matters to them most?
Well, my constituents are really fed up with a lot of the news that you just spoke about. They really are. They find it very concerning. But they also know that the real problem in this country is dealing with our economy and being sure that people have jobs, that they have good paying jobs, and that even salaries are increasing. I think that's what they really care about. And of course, here in San Diego, housing issues also are at the forefront of a lot of people's minds.
And speaking of housing, we hear a lot about the housing crisis happening in San Diego and California. Some people have lived here their entire lives, and now they're facing retirement and uncertainty about whether they'll have an affordable place to live. What do you say to these people?
Well, I think at the federal level, there are some grants that are available, and we certainly went through a very, very difficult period quite a few years ago. State and local government, in many ways, have a greater hand, I think, in trying to be sure that we have the resources here, that we have the housing stock that's needed. Sometimes I see so much housing that's being built, apartments, whether they're condos, and yet we know that it's really difficult. People are not actually leaving their homes the way they used to. We used to always have people, empty nesters, would leave their home and go into perhaps a smaller place and then open up that housing for a younger family. And today housing is so expensive that they actually can't do that. They can live in a far bigger place or more comfortable place if they stay. It's a real problem, and I'm hoping that we can do a better job at the federal government, but it's not necessarily a national problem.
The call to ban transgender people from military service. It started off with a tweet from President Trump, and then on Friday it became a memorandum. What's your response to that?
Well, I'm angry about that because I feel like that's discriminatory. I've had the opportunity to serve as the chair or the ranking of the Personnel Committee of Armed Services, and we helped to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, played a major role in that. I think that we have seen that our troops serve very, very well. They serve openly right now. We've had many transgender people who serve in the services. Only 1% of our country serves. Anybody who wants to, raise their right hand and say, ask me, call me, send me, is making a very important statement about their concern, their patriotism, and their desire to use their talents and their treasure to do that. So I don't think anybody who's qualified and eligible should be denied, certainly not on that basis. I would hope that there's no disruption of people who are serving, and I hope that we put enough pressure on the president to take another look at that policy.
What's priority one as far as working hard for San Diegans?
Well, one of the things that I think we can do a far better job in this country on is providing different opportunities for young people as they complete their high school education. Very important to have a very good, solid high school education. But looking beyond the 2- and 4-year institutions, I think that we need to open up apprenticeships in this country. I'm going to be seeing some of those today. I'll be visiting with several different companies here in San Diego. It provides young people a way to earn and learn at the same time, to have a lot of hands-on instruction, to have people, mentors that are really with them, and I think supporting them all the way. If we could have more of those options, then I think we begin to open that up. We begin to say to families, These are great options. Of course, every young person who can and wants to attend college should do that. And every family is going to work very hard to make sure it's affordable. And we need to work on that problem. But the more opportunities that we have, the better off I think that our young people will have a vision for their own future.
Congresswoman Davis, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Representative Davis is back home in San Diego for the August recess. KPBS has invited all 5 members of the San Diego congressional delegation to join us here on Evening Edition. We'll be bringing you those interviews in the coming weeks. Since 1975, more than 85,000 refugees have settled in San Diego. Many have hopes of a quality education for their children. But Megan Wood with our media partner iNewsSource finds the quality of education these refugee children receive often depends on which school district they wind up in.
Emerald Middle School in El Cajon began the last school year with 1 class dedicated to refugee students. By April, it had 4. In all, the Cajon Valley Union School District enrolled 862 newcomers last year. These are students who have a birth country other than the U.S. and have never been to an American school. Most are refugees.
Okay, I want everyone to get out your language live.
David Olson is one of the teachers who works with these students.
I do read alouds with them. We're doing a lot of stuff cooperatively. We're sitting on the floor. We're working together.
To get new refugee students at Emerald familiar with how school works, they spend the day with 1 teacher, except for PE. Their English-speaking counterparts have 6 teachers in a day.
For some of the students who haven't been able to go to school, have missed school because of being a refugee, that I want to give them maybe a little piece of their childhood that they missed.
Many students who come to the U.S. as refugees have large gaps in their education. That's one of the main reasons why Cajon Valley slowly integrates students into regular classes. San Diego Unified used to teach newcomers this way too, until last year. Now, San Diego schools get refugees into regular classes from the very start.
We don't have to wait for them to learn spoken English before we can introduce content, knowledge, and language.
Before the 2016-2017 school year, San Diego Unified High Schools placed refugee students in self-contained classrooms called New Arrival Centers. But then the district noticed these students weren't doing as well as they had hoped.
We were noticing that some kids were graduating, but not all.
Cefa says at some schools, fewer than 50% of newcomers graduated in 4 years. That's because the New Arrival Center students weren't earning credits to satisfy graduation requirements. Instead of spending the whole day with 1 teacher, students now take 1 language class for English learners and then attend regular classes with non-refugee students.
It's really treating them as any other 9th grader as they come into our high schools, basically, and then giving them options so that they can graduate in 4 years.
Not everyone likes this accelerated schedule, including former New Arrival Center teacher Chris Larson.
Some of the students who came with perhaps a much stronger educational foundation, they were ready to move up into mainstream classes sooner. But some students had had very little formal education.
One of those students is Liberian native Tamba Fala. In 2009, he was 15 and enrolled in school for the first time.
Yeah, first year was hard because when I came, I had 0 English. 0, none.
It took him 5 years to graduate from Crawford High School.
If it wasn't for that program, I don't think I was going to be here where I'm at today, but yeah.
Retired teacher Chris Larson now works with the district in hopes of improving San Diego Unified's international centers.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. I just think we need to be smart about providing what each newcomer student needs.
Despite these concerns, district officials say students are doing better under the new program. Data provided by Cefas shows 66% of all newcomer students enrolled in a regular math class last year passed with a C or better.
Slowing down the curriculum, in my opinion, is not the answer. Can we improve the support that these students are getting in these classes? Yes.
For KPBS, I'm Megan Wood with iNewsSource.
That story was a collaboration by the Investigative Reporting Workshop at American University and iNewsSource. iNewsSource is an independently funded partner of KPBS. There's a push to bring an AIDS memorial to San Diego. Advocates have chosen a small parcel in Bankers Hill as a preferred location. The plot of land at Olive Street and 3rd Avenue is already due to become a city park.
We want to go somewhere where we can sit down and reflect and contemplate and celebrate quietly the people we've lost.
The memorial will eventually need approval from city officials. San Diego families reunited today. The USS Sterrett returned home after a 5-month deployment. They were met with tears, hugs, and excitement. While out at sea, military officials say sailors took part in exercises with allied nations. The crew was expected home a month ago, but the deployment was extended. The commanding officer has commended the sailors for their professionalism in the face of last-minute duties. Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, vroom vroom. A recent study says living in San Diego without a car will lower your chances of finding a job, especially if you're poor. And on Midday Edition, time is ticking. The deadline for Congress to renew the Children's Health Insurance Program is looming. That's tomorrow at noon on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.